It's not complicated. I would say to everyone, start with sharing what we all share, which is the pleasure of conversation.
No matter from which side of the mountain you are climbing, we should be helping each other so that we can all get to the same place. So there is need for people to make friends.
Personal contact, personal friendship. Then we can exchange deeper level of experience.
Sweet and holy friends, good Yontif, and welcome to the Passover Interfaith Seder.
10 plagues, 4 questions, Dayenu, 4 children, parting of the Red Sea, and the Exodus story itself. Tonight, we have a special treat for you.
On this night, thousands of years ago, our forefathers and mothers hearkened the call of freedom. Tonight, this call rings out again, sounding the challenge, commanding us to champion the cause of all oppressed and downtrodden.
We summon all the peoples of the world to arise and be free. Let's remember that true freedom requires peace. Peace of mind, peace in our hearts, and peace in our families and in our communities. We must look after one another, for one cannot be truly at peace within while our brothers and sisters struggle for freedom.
Passover is a uniquely Jewish custom, where a ritual dinner, along with unique holiday foods and drinks, are shared together with song, prayer, and storytelling. We are happy to bring neighbors and family, strangers and friends together to this virtual table tonight for a smashing meal, sharing the love for freedom and the yearning for peace.
It is the telling of the Exodus, of miracles, magical tales, overcoming impossible suffering, and heading towards the promised land.
Join us now as we present the rich traditions of the past with songs, symbolic foods, and ceremonies, and compare that with today's quest for a better understanding between all nations, all people, and the universal overcoming of oppression, bigotry, and inequality.
Tonight, let us raise our cups of wine high to celebrate a world of hope and promise and a better future for all.
We begin this Interfaith Seder with a look at how we embrace the name of God. In every religion, there are many ways to utter God's name.
In Hebrew alone, there are more than 72 names of God.
All in reverence, respect, humility, and with grace.
Abba,
Adonai,
Allah,
Jesus Christ,
Krishna,
Jehovah,
Om,
God,
Ishwa, Supreme Being,
Rabbul Alameen, Lord of the Universe.
Seder in Hebrew translates to order, literally a table of contents. Only on Passover are we so excited with the order of the evening that we even sing the table of contents. The song goes like this. Kadesh Orechatz
Skarpas Yachatz
Magid Rakza
Motzi Matzah
Maror Korech
Shulchan Orech
Tzafun Barech
Hallel Nirtzah.
This is a family celebration. Everyone from the youngest to the oldest is needed to make our festivities complete. From generation to generation, Vador Vador, we gather around our tables to share the story of the Exodus from Egypt, the story of freedom.
We must remember, as we celebrate freedom tonight, that we are participating in the comfort of our own homes, with electricity, with clean water, food, furniture. We must remember the struggle of so many around the world right now without these creature comforts. So many continue to suffer under oppression, under tyranny, and with fear.
This evening, as we remember the courage and the faith of our ancestors, let us commit our hearts and souls to those still suffering the pains of bondage, inequality, and prejudice. For if any one of us is chained, then none of us are free.
The Passover Seder hosts a formal dinner, but before we eat on our fanciest dinnerware, using our finest china and stemware, we first share the telling of the Exodus, along with symbolic ceremonies and blessings.
Hello, I'm Bo Adams, and I serve as director of Pitt's Theology Library at Emory University. We're delighted to participate in this celebration by sharing images from our collections of historic Haggadot. Our library is home to two of the most significant American collections of Passover Haggadot, the Richard K. Goldstein collection and the Rabbi David Geffen collection, which together constitute over 700 different Haggadot, dating from the 17th through the 21st centuries. I want to extend thanks to the family of Mr. Richard Goldstein, particularly his daughter, Dr. Donna Goldstein, with whom we've been working on this project, and to Rabbi David Geffen, who has also been involved in the planning for this event. As a library, we remain committed to collecting these books that tell the story of the Exodus from Egypt in such a diversity of languages, cultures, and styles. I encourage you to learn more and to get in touch with us at pitts.emory.edu. We hope you enjoy this worldwide celebration of freedom, and I thank you for allowing us to celebrate with you. Happy Passover.
Haggadahs are the guidebooks taking us along the path of retelling the story of the Exodus from Egypt. It is a guidebook unlike any other, for while it has a specific order, the contents may be modified, reinterpreted, and adapted for inclusivity, modernization, and commentary of the times we live in.
Hello, I am Mark Gerson, and I am the co-founder and chairman of United Hatzalah of Israel. I'm the co-founder and chairman of African Mission Healthcare, and I'm the author of the newly released book, The Telling, How Judaism's Essential Book Reveals the Meaning of Life. The essential book, it's the Haggadah. This book, which we have right in front of us, asks and answers all of life's most important questions en route to enabling each of us to live a happier, better, and more meaningful life. Now soon we'll sit down to Seder, and we will say, all who are hungry, come and eat. When we say this, let's mean it as we should everything in the Haggadah. So what are we going to mean when we say all who are hungry, come and eat? Let's each of us think, what am I hungry for? What am I dissatisfied by with regards to myself spiritually and with regards to the world materially? And then let's make some commitments. How am I going to improve myself spiritually? How am I going to improve the world materially? And that is a great start to the great new year that Passover inaugurates.
First thing we do is light holiday candles with a welcoming holiday blessing. This ritual, presented most often by a woman, the head of the household, invites us to stand up in reverence.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov.
Next, we present the Seder plate and all its contents. Each Seder plate is large, has many holding sections, and can be homemade as in a child's art project, or it can be as ornate as any museum piece. What's important is to have one at the head of the table.
I see the Seder as a means towards togetherness. And everything on the Seder plate does that. As a matter of fact, everything that is within the Passover Seder addresses intimacy, togetherness, and bringing people closer.
Matzah. This is the official bread of Passover, aka the bread of affliction. It's a Costco-sized saltine cracker at first glance, but in its rich tradition, it's so much more. The story goes that the Hebrews fled Egypt in a hurry. There was no time to wait. The daily dough for baking bread did not have time to rise. Matzah means unleavened, and so we eat matzah during the Seder and over the 8 days of Passover to commemorate the swift departure from Egypt. It reminds us of the slavery of the Hebrews and of all enslaved in current times. It is a core Passover tradition. Eating unleavened bread, matzah, for 8 days straight can be a challenge on the digestive system. Perhaps this is why the Maxwell House Coffee Company came out with their own brand of Haggadahs back in 1932. Since the 1930s, good to the last drop is synonymous with Pesach. Over 60 million printed copies were made, making it the most widely used Haggadah in the world. Coffee provides, you could say, freedom. Freedom from the blight of the bread of affliction. As they say, God works in mysterious ways.
Friends, the karpas, the parsley, in addition to being a symbol of immersion into relationships, and of course dipping into the salt water, which is the essence of vulnerability, sadness that we share together. Anything that we share, whether it's sadness or triumph, we share together and it brings us together. But it's also green, which is a symbol of renewal, of new life. So this Passover Seder, I welcome you to invite someone who you haven't spoken to in a while to your dinner table and breathe new life and renewal into that relationship.
Maror.
Traditionally, the bitter herb on the Seder plate comes from fresh horseradish root. Once grated, it becomes super hot and bitter, kind of Jewish wasabi. It'll bring down grown men to their knees when eaten properly. The maror symbolizes the bitterness the Hebrews experienced in Egypt and the bitter lot of all who are enslaved.
This is the zroa, which literally means the outstretched limb, the outstretched arm, right? And so it symbolizes the yad yamini, the kind and saving or redemptive arm of God. But what do you think it means here in terms of intimacy? It absolutely means every time you stretch out your hand, right, to hold someone, to address someone, to pull someone closer. I know that 2021, we're still living in a time of distance. But this is the symbol of closeness.
Charoset, this homemade concoction consisting of apples, nuts, honey, a little wine, a little cinnamon. It's really delicious. Preparing it reminds us of the mortar that the Hebrews made in slavery to build monuments for the Pharaoh. And the sweetness suggests that even in the midst of terrible oppression, the hope for freedom stays alive.
The charoset, although it symbolizes the mortar used to, of course, keep the bricks together that the slaves were carrying and making and building, it's also the glue of the family. It's the glue among friendships and other relationships. This symbolizes the need to come together, to be together, and to grow together.
Used in both Easter and Passover, the egg represents the old temple offering, roasted, and renewal, fresh, new possibilities.
The word for egg in Hebrew is beitzah, and the Aramaic word is bea, which means to ask. Here again, we have a reference to conversation.
Over the past 40 years, the orange has been added to the Interfaith Seder plate. Though there's more than one telling of this orange origin, here's Reverend Amy Carol Webb from the River of Grass Universalist Unitarian Church telling her version.
the orange. A new tradition added in many feminist Haggadahs. One story of its origin is that in 1984, a group of 8 young feminists at Oberlin College created a woman's Haggadah, which included a story written by Shifra Lilith Freewoman about a young lesbian who is told by her Hasidic rabbi that there is as much place for a lesbian in Judaism as there is for chametz at the Seder table. And so, they included an orange on their ceremonial plate, not only as a correction to traditional Judaism's exclusion of gay and lesbian people, but as a reminder that our vision of the sacred is only an approximation bound by our time and our culture, and therefore always in need of revision.
And the reason we use an orange on the Seder plate is to ask ourselves, aren't you tired of doing the same mistakes over and over? Aren't you capable of doing a little better next year? Aren't you able to be more involved in helping the community and spreading peace?
I'm holding in my hands an olive. In 2008, the olive branch was introduced to the Seder plate as a symbol of peace in the Middle East and all over the world.
The 4 cups of wine during the Seder are reminders of the eternal promises of both freedom from oppression and freedom for a full life.
Drink a cup of wine, not for Muslims though.
Drink the first cup of wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
Before partaking in the nourishment, physically and spiritually, of this holy meal, we call upon the healing power of water to cleanse the hands and heart of the impurities of this material world.
Sweet friends, Yachatz is the crescendo of the Passover Seder. When you break the middle matzah, you break the matzah, and that break is heard around the world. Similar to the break that is heard around the world when countries break peace with each other.
Time for the kids to take charge of the Seder. Here we ask the 4 questions about aspects of Passover that make it distinct. The questions are traditionally asked by the youngest household member and signify passing of tradition from one generation to the next. Here's how it goes.
Together, Laila Zeh, Laila Zeh, Kulo Matzah. Laila Zeh, Laila Zeh, Kulo Matzah. Shebechol Leilot, Anochi She'ar Yirakot, She'ar Yirakot. Laila Zeh, Laila Zeh, Baruch. Together, halayla zeh, halayla zeh, halayla zeh, halayla zeh, שבכל לילות אנו בין יושבים ובין מסובים, בין יושבים ובין מסובים, together, לילה זה הלילה זה כולם
4 times the Torah, the Old Testament, bids us to tell our children of the exodus of Egypt. 4 times. From this, our tradition infers that there are different kinds of children, and to each we respond in a different manner, according to the child's capabilities.
The wise child asks, "What are the precepts, laws, and observances which God commanded us?" To this child, we should explain the Passover observances in detail, discussing the meaning of freedom of the Hebrews and all people. The wise one will be a future leader, and in this way, we are preparing them for their role.
The rejected child. The rejected child said, "What is this observance to you? Since they say to you and not us, this rejects the essentials of the faith, the unity of God and the community." To this child, we say, "It is because of what the Eternal did for me when I went forth from Egypt. For me, that is, and not for you."
The naive child asks, "What is this all about?" To this child, you may say, "With a mighty arm, God freed us from Egypt, from the house of bondage." To the person of simplicity, give a straightforward answer, for the Torah makes wise the simple.
The voiceless child. The voiceless child who cannot even ask a question. You should tell your child on that day, "This is because of what the Eternal did for me when I went forth from Egypt."
You may recall the telling of how Moses came to be, how he was saved, and how he became the leader of the Exodus from Egypt. For those familiar with the Academy Award-winning epic film The Ten Commandments, the story of the Exodus is timeless.
And here is our telling of the Seder story.
In ancient times, the Hebrews went into Egypt, searching for food. The land was good. The people welcomed them. Joseph and his coat of many colors got on well with Pharaoh. Joseph interpreted his dreams. Pharaoh relied on Joseph. The Hebrews felt at home in Egypt with food, clothing, shelter, and prosperity, interfaith coexistence in full swing. Then a new ruler came into power. The new Pharaoh did not trust the Hebrews. He made them slaves. They toiled in the fields, fished in the Nile, worked in the houses. They made bricks and built treasure cities for this Pharaoh. Always hungry, always tired, these Hebrews were oppressed. They were slaves. Pharaoh was afraid of rebellion for his terrible treatment of the Hebrews and came up with a deadly plan. He wished to have every Hebrew baby boy killed so they could not rise up against his power. Pharaoh commanded his people to drown these male babies. That was simply horrible. Now, Miriam, the prophet, as is told in the story, was 5 when her brother Moses was born. He was a Hebrew and would have been drowned had it not been for Miriam's brilliant idea. Miriam made a baby basket of papyrus reeds. She put Moses in it and took the basket to the riverbank. Hiding in the tall grasses, she floated him downstream towards the Pharaoh's daughter's favorite swimming spot. Miriam's plan was actually working. Pharaoh's daughter found the baby in the floating basket and scooped the newborn baby from the Nile. She instantly fell in love with the cherub and decided to raise him as her own. She named him Moses because she had brought him from the water. Thanks to Miriam, her brother was saved, adopted, and grew up in the Pharaoh's palace. What a miracle. As Moses grew older, he became restless. He walked the cities, observing the slaves hard at work, saw human suffering, workers being whipped, and one day he witnessed a slave being beaten unmercifully. Moses stepped in and told the slave master to stop. He did not listen, and Moses killed the slave master. Moses fled, running for his life, realizing what he had just done. As the story goes, he fled Egypt to hide from sure punishment. He became a shepherd in the land of Midian. One day, as he was guarding his sheep, Moses saw the strangest sight. He saw a bush that was burning but was not burning up. When Moses approached this magical bush, he heard the word of God. And God said to Moses, "Come forward, Moses. I will send you to Pharaoh. You will be the one to bring my people out of slavery. You will lead them out of Egypt. You will negotiate with Pharaoh. If he does not listen, I will help you." And so Moses, upon the word of God, at the burning bush, went back to Egypt and stood before Pharaoh and said,
"Let my people go."
But Pharaoh was having none of it. His heart was hardened. God promised Moses, and she would help. God sent a plague on Egypt. He turned the waters of the Nile red with blood. Shocking as this must have been, Moses went again to Pharaoh, declaring,
"Let my people go."
Pharaoh was stubborn and would not free the Hebrews. The next day, God sent a second plague. When Pharaoh awakened, there were frogs all over the place, all throughout the palace. Rivet here, rivet there, rivet everywhere. The next day, Moses stood before Pharaoh and said very loud, over the sound of the frogs,
"Let my people go."
But Pharaoh was a stubborn one, and he would not. So another plague came. There were lice everywhere, all over everybody. They itched, they scratched, and no matter how much they scratched, the itching wouldn't stop. But when Moses went before Pharaoh and said,
"Let my people go,"
Pharaoh's heart was still as hard as stone. The next day, flies, zillions and zillions of flies all over the place. The flies ate up the food, and after that, the cattle were stricken with a mysterious disease and died. And after each plague, Moses went to Pharaoh and said,
"Let my people go."
But Pharaoh wasn't budging, not even a little bit. God became increasingly impatient. God was about kindness, but he also wanted this Pharaoh to free the Hebrews. And the next day, a new plague arrived. This time, boils. Yuck. The Egyptians awoke to boils all over their body. They were in pain. Boils for everyone. But when Moses said,
"Let my people go,"
Pharaoh still said no. And God said, "I will make a great and terrible storm over the land of Egypt. There will be thunder and lightning and huge hailstones." And even though the hailstones rattled on the roof of the palace and destroyed the crops in the field, when Moses went to Pharaoh and said,
"Let my people go,"
Pharaoh would not be moved. And then God brought an eighth plague, locusts. Locusts swarmed into the land of Egypt and ate every crop leaf in the fields. But the cloud of locusts did no good. The ninth plague was even more frightening. Darkness. For days the sun did not shine. But still, when Moses stood before Pharaoh and said,
"Let my people go,"
Pharaoh refused. God, as the story continues, said to Moses, "I didn't want to do this, but Pharaoh has left me no choice. I have saved the most terrible plague for last. But first, Moses, here is what you must do. Tell the Hebrews to prepare a feast. Each household shall kill a lamb and take some of the blood and put it on the doors of your houses. Close everything up tight, and whatever you do, don't go outside. For I will pass through the land of Egypt at night, and I will smite the firstborn, both human and beast. When I see the doors are marked with blood, I will pass over them. When Pharaoh's own firstborn was stricken with the final plague, Pharaoh arose in the night and summoned Moses. Pharaoh then uttered the words that Moses longed to hear. Go, get you forth from amongst my people. Go far away. Go wherever you want, but leave us alone, and leave now. In the dark of night, after God delivered the 10 plagues, the children of the Holy Land departed in haste. They took only what they could carry. There wasn't even enough time to let the bread rise, so they made flat crackers called matzah for their journey. When they came to the Red Sea, Pharaoh changed his mind. He broke his word and sent his army chasing after them, the sea on one side and the chariots of the Egyptians bearing down on them from the other. The Hebrews were fought with terror and began complaining. It is said that Moses then, with staff in hand, raised up and quietly stepped into the sea. In doing this, he acted as a free man, and only then did God cause the waters to be divided. The Israelites passed on dry land through the Red Sea as the towering waters stayed parted until they had safely crossed. With the Egyptian soldiers quickly catching up, God caused the waters of the Red Sea then to close in on the war chariots. The Egyptian army perished. As the children of the Holy Land became free, Moses then led his people through the desert and received the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, leading them to the Promised Land.
10 plagues.
Blood, frogs, vermin, wild beasts, pestilence, boils, hail, locusts, darkness,
Slaying of the firstborn.
This is our second cup, the cup of redemption. May the story of the Passover, the food and the drink of the Seder, and the warmth of the community sustain us for the journey ahead.
We need to get together and know one another, just to discover and explore those commonalities.
We are called, as we like to say, to look into one another's eyes in order to see more deeply and in order to recognize the beauty of God in every living human being.
Life offers us a choice. The choice to stand with those who gave birth to freedom, with Miriam, with Moses, and in modern times with Martin Luther King Jr. We have the choice to make a statement, to say loud and clear, may peace prevail on earth.
Hi, this is Roy Zimmerman. Thank you for making me a part of this virtual interfaith Passover Seder. I'm going to ask you all to sing along when the time comes, and you will know. Here we go. How many Mozarts are born among the poor, taken by hunger or by disease or war? Where is the music that we might have heard if fortune was to say they should stay? How many live and die and never know their worth, toiling in darkness by an accident of birth? And can we truly hope for justice on this earth someday? We shall overcome. Some born in hunger become prisoners of need, and some born in privilege become prisoners of greed. When will the people, and I mean all of us, be freed to find a way to say we shall live in peace? We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome some. And as we teeter on the brink of war again, and build our monuments to vain, ambitious men who talk about the road to peace, I wonder when on earth will they lead that way. And as powers pass to the most fortunate of sons, who spend their genius making money, making guns, will there be peace and justice for the humblest ones someday? Ah, but deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday, and we'll walk hand in hand someday, and we shall live in peace somewhere.
In Abrahamic Reunion, we try all the time to create a long holiday. That holiday will be the understanding and knowing one another. And this is our letter, our peace, our message to all of the world and all of the people all around the world during this very holy holiday.
Every one of us has a responsibility to bring peace to the world. As Sister Janti said, we all need to light the flame of peace in our hearts, and we connect one as one human family. And with this awareness of peace and love, we send vibration of peace and love from our birthplace, Hiroshima, to the world. Om Shanti.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad Jamus. I'm from Palestine. We pray for peace between all the people of Abraham, the Israelis, the Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, and the Druze. May this Passover bring you peace, happiness, love, and every blessing from above. Happy Passover.
May peace prevail on earth. Modern plagues we acknowledge to overcome with strength, hope, and conviction, with sisterhood, brotherhood, compassion, and integrity.
Poverty,
oppression,
intolerance,
racism,
illiteracy,
disease,
war,
cruelty,
injustice,
climate crisis.
As we continue with the ultimate modern plague, the pandemic that impacts the entire planet, we say our prayers for those we have lost to COVID-19, to the virus, and say prayers for those spared.
Passover, of course, reminds us of freedom from slavery, and freedom is a necessary prerequisite to real happiness. What is real freedom? And we feel that real freedom is the freedom to think and to feel as I want and when I want.
The journey of the Israelites was both spiritual and physical. The crossing of the Red Sea was a spiritual journey through the sea of corruption of the Pharaoh and his people. By the help of God through Moses, the Israelites were able to cross the sea safely and reach the promised land, a spiritual state, while Pharaoh and his people were drowned in their own corruption.
Our advice is to make friends to followers of all religions.
One of the wonderful things about spending time with people completely unlike you is you discover how much you have in common. The same fears, the same hopes, the same concerns.
If we want to live happy lives, the secret is in the miracle counting contest. The more miracles that we can count every day, the happier we'll be. And it's something that we can try and start tomorrow morning. I go downstairs and I see or I hear my children smiling or laughing, or maybe I see another one of my kids sleeping. All miracles. I open the refrigerator, there's exactly the food I want that's going to sustain me. We can count miracles like that. Each one's a genuine miracle. Each one's a completely authentic miracle. We can count them all day. We'll get into the hundreds or the thousands, and we will be happier people, we'll be better people, we'll be more grateful people, and the lesson is all derived directly from our sacred text, the Haggadah.
Die, dienu, die, dienu, die, dienu, 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 die, dienu, die, dienu, die, dienu, dienu, dienu. Oilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim.
Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, dienu.
Die, dienu. Die, dienu, die, dienu, dienu, dienu.
Die, dienu, die, dienu, die, dienu, dienu, dienu.
Ilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, dienu.
Die, dienu, die, dienu.
Die, dienu.
Die, dienu, dienu, dienu.
Ilu natan lanu et Shabbat, natan lanu et Shabbat, dienu.
Die, dienu. Die, dienu. Die, dienu. Dienu, dienu, dienu.
Dienu, dienu, dienu.
Dienu, dienu, dienu.
What did Anu do that we wanted to die so badly?
Die, dienu, die, dienu.
Die, dienu, dienu, dienu.
Die, dienu.
Die, dienu.
Dienu, dienu.
Ilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim.
Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, dienu.
Die, dienu.
Die, dienu.
Die, dienu. Dienu, dienu.
Ilu natan lanu et ha-Torah, natan lanu et ha-Torah, dienu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen.
In our community, we also daven, we pray in the feminine to honor the underrepresented women and the feminine energy in liturgy. Bruchacho Eloatenu Malkat Olam Ba Pri Hagofen.
As we prepare to partake of the Seder meal, we once more must cleanse our hands with the blessing. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, who has made us holy by your commandments and commanded us concerning the washing of our hands.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
This blessing over matzo is a sign that the Passover virtual dinner is not far away.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achelat matzah.
This matzah is the bread of affliction, which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come in and eat. Let all who are in want share the hope of Pesach. This year, we are here. Next year, may we be in a world of peace. And this year, we are slaves. And next year, may we all be free. And let us say, Amen.
Maror. Now we eat charoset, the brick and mortar, using a bitter herb like romaine lettuce or the radish. We do this to remember both the bitter times and the sweet, sweet taste of freedom.
The Seder is getting out of control at this point. So much for Seder. This is the most bitter herb of them all. We just ate bricks and mortar, and now we're instructed to eat the second bitter herb of the Passover Interfaith Seder evening. Here's the background. A Roman asked the great teacher Hillel to teach him the entire Torah while standing on one foot. Hillel said, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor." This is the whole Torah. All the rest is commentary. Now go and learn it. Now we take a piece of matzah, spread the horseradish on it, top it off with another piece of matzah to make the Hillel sandwich. And we'll say the following blessing: we eat this matzah of freedom, blessed by the stories of those whose minds cannot be enslaved, even if their bodies may be. May we find strength to help them and ourselves attain true freedom, that the earth and all her people be made whole. And let us say, Amen.
At this time, during our Passover Interfaith Seder, and all around the world, we gather to enjoy the festival meal. Here's where we finish suffering from lack of food and too much wine, and rejoice, recline, and prepare to be filled with many ethnic delights. It's not unlike American Thanksgiving, but with a Jewish twist.
Now we search for the afikomen. This dessert must be found, negotiated, in order to finish the Seder program.
Children hunt for the afikomen, keeping them engaged as they win a small prize upon returning the afikomen to the Seder leader. The afikomen is then broken up and distributed to all at the table, so we can begin to conclude the Seder.
This is the prayer we say for the afikomen. What is broken shall be made whole. What is shattered shall be restored. Our hope is in our children, to find what is lost, to bring together what is broken, to build the future that the earth and her people may be made whole.
Drink the fourth cup of wine.
The fourth cup of wine. Please sing with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hakafen. Amen.
The cup of Elijah, the large goblet of wine, from which no one drinks, is for the prophet Elijah. Elijah the prophet healed the sick and helped the poor. It is said that he visits each Seder table. He comes hoping to find a world prepared for peace. Let us open the door for Elijah, the stranger who is always here, the messenger who can never stay, the prophet who waits for us to take up the work of God.
In the 1980s, the tradition of the Cup of Miriam began to honor the gifts and the strength of women throughout the ages. Often the cup is placed to balance Elijah's cup.
This is the cup of Miriam, daughter, sister, leader, and prophet. She watched over baby Moses as he floated down the river. She danced when the waters parted and the dry land appeared.
When Miriam stood upon the shores and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her, just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long.
The freedom that we celebrate tonight is not only freedom from enslavement.
It is freedom to live in peace,
with dignity, and with hope for a bright future.
Next year in Jerusalem.
Next year in Jerusalem.
Next year in Jerusalem.
עבדים היינו לפרעה במצרים, עבדים היינו אתה בני חורין, עבדים היינו אתה בני חורין, אתה בני חורין, Tell the story to your children. Slaves in Egypt were we, but God gave strength to Moshe Rabbeinu, and now our people are free. And now our people are free. Avadim היינו לפרעה במצרים, עבדים היינו אתה בני חורין, עבדים היינו אתה בני חורין, אתה בני חורין, עבדים היינו היינו לפרעה במצרים, במצרים עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין. Tell the story to your children. Slaves in Egypt were weak, but God gave strength to Moshe Rabbeinu, and now our people are free. And now our people are free. Avadim hayinu, hayinu, לפרעה במצרים, במצרים עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, עבדים היינו, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין, אתה בני חורין, בני חורין.
אילו נתן לנו את התורה, נתן לנו את התורה, דיינו, 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 דיינו.
Good Yontif, Happy Pesach. So Adirhu, this is a song of strength, and we ask God to rebuild the temple soon in our days, and what we mean is to help everyone to feel like they're a sanctuary. So know that this is a song for your personal sanctuary, your neshama, your body, your mind, your spirit. Adieu.
Chag Sameach, friends. This is Shine, a song for all of our children, for the children who know exactly the right questions to ask, to those who don't ask questions at all, to those who we connect with, to those who we struggle with. May this year bring light and redemption to every single one of us, to children all over the entire world. May we see the preciousness of life. May we transcend. May we rise.
Olam chesed yibonei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed yibonei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed yibonei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed yibanei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed yibanei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed yibanei, la da dai, la da dai dai, la da dai dai. Olam chesed
this world from love. La da da la da 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 la da da da. And if we build this world from love, la da da la da da la da da, then God will build this world from love. Seri bonne, la da da la da da la da da. Olam chesed bonne.